Hello everyone, welcome back to On The Fly. Today we're going to be recapping day 5 of the men's Olympic hockey event. So jumping right on into it with the results. We started off today with Slovakia beating Latvia 5-2. And this was a game where Slovakia did dominate for the most part. Latvia did have their chances, they did have a shot at this game. But at the end of the day, Slovakia was the better team and they deserved the win. And they did take it 5-2. There was an empty net, so it really was closer to 4-2. But it was really sort of just a domination by Slovakia. Latvia was in it for the most part till right around the third period, and then the conditioning of Slovakia did take over and Latvia sort of just fell through. It is going to be very curious to see where they sort of land in the qualification playoffs, because obviously these are two teams that are at the bottom of Group C as it is right now. And this game was sort of a determiner to see where, if possible, these teams would make it to the quarterfinal rounds, because they want to try and get the high seeds, which is why they did play this game as hard as they could. But at the end of the day, Slovakia did pull through with the victory, and that makes Latvia now in last place in Group C, with third place belonging to Slovakia. Taking a look at the second game of the day, and this was by far the best game of the day. We had Finland against Sweden, and this was a result of potential Leaf fandom. Of course, North American fans are well familiar with the choke of the Toronto Maple Leafs, and this was yet another version of that. So we had Sweden going up 3-0 early in the game, and then Finland coming back, potted 1, potted 2, potted 3, going into overtime, and finally potted the fourth goal, winning in overtime 4-3. So sorry, Leafs fans, but there is something familiar to you guys as of right now. And this also means that Finland and Sweden both are going to make it to the quarterfinals. So at the end, it wasn't the worst thing for Sweden, although they will lose their positioning and they are going to have to play a better team based off that. And one of those teams is going to be Canada, who will most likely make it to the quarterfinals, playing their next opponent in the Chinese. So once again, China has not been great this tournament, and I do expect a similar result of that of today. But with that being said, Finland, Sweden, 4-3 final and overtime, and Finland also does win Group C, with Sweden coming second. Taking a look at Game 3 of the day, was between the U.S. and Germany. And this game was another really good game. Obviously, two teams that are battling it out for positioning. And the U.S. and Germany are very evenly matched teams. The final score was 3-2, and both sort of sides went back and forth. U.S. went up 3-1, and then Germany scored a late goal. Didn't quite make it enough for the comeback, but the U.S. does play that sort of game of defensive style first, and they did dominate the game for the most part. But at the end of the day, U.S. winning 3-2 over the Germans, and once again, another big game for the U.S., winning the group, winning the top spot in the overall tournament. So that will help them towards seeding, especially when it comes down to the semifinal rounds when everybody is reseeded. It is going to be very important to get a higher seed, because you might get lucky with the team that surprises in the quarterfinal rounds, and you might get a lower seed depending on where that team sort of sits. Taking a look at the last game of the day was between Canada and China. So this is another qualifying round preview. And this game was another game of utter and complete domination by the Canadians. It was only 5-0, but once again, it was 5-0, not 3-2 like the Germans. They didn't let any goals in, and really it was just the majority of the time spent in the Chinese end, and it was just a shooting gallery. So when you take a look at a team like Canada compared to China, they don't need to beat them 45-0 at the end of the day, but they do want to beat them pretty handily, and 5-0 is a pretty good margin without having to worry too much about what's coming back at you. But with that being said, they are going to be preparing for tomorrow's game, with, of course, China playing Canada in the qualifying round. It is going to be quite exciting, as we are going to finally get to see the full might of Team Canada playing up against a weaker team in the Chinese. Taking a look at the standings. So the overall standings here for the event. So when you take a look at what's going on here, this is the qualifying matchups first, and then you'll go into the quarterfinal rounds, which is already preceded. And then we look towards the semifinal rounds, where everybody's going to be taken as their number, their respective number, as you can see here. So the U.S. in 1, Finland in 2, Russia in 3. We have Sweden in 4, Canada in 5, Denmark in 6. Then we have Czechs in 7, Slovakia in 8, Germany in 9, Switzerland in 10. We have Latvia in 11, and China in last place with 12. So these teams will be ranked in the semifinals if any of them make it. There aren't any surprises here. But at the end of the day, it is looking very much like we will have something along the lines of a Canada-US semifinal potentially, with the Canadians being in fifth. And it does appear that the only real sort of shot we have here will be the Czechs against the Finns. And that's really the only way that Canada-US semifinal won't happen. But with that being said, of course, Canada still has to beat a team like Sweden and China. So it is going to be very curious to see if Canada can get through a tough team like the Swedes. But at this point in the tournament, I see no reason why Sweden and Canada can't go head-to-head. It is going to be a very good game. I do highly suggest you watch them. And that's probably going to be the closest game you will see, aside from maybe that of the Czechs and the Finns. Assuming, of course, that Switzerland doesn't upset the Czechs. But with the overtime game, of course, anything is possible. The Czechs are a really good team on paper, but haven't quite proved themselves yet on the total stage. So I'm looking forward to seeing what goes on there. Just taking a look at the Group A standings. We have USA, Canada, Germany, China, all basically 12-9-6-0 rather. 9-6-3-0 for the points, and then we have Russia, Denmark, Czechs, and Swiss with 7-6, 4, and 2 points each. And then we have Finland, Sweden, Slovakia, and Latvia with 8, 7, 3, and 0 points. So this once again is finalized, right? So we're not getting any more more movement in the standings. And it's going to be very curious to see what goes on here, because this will be a big time determiner for the semifinal matchups, and you are going to have to play a tough team in the Americans, especially because the Americans do get the luck of a draw, having to play a team either Germany or Slovakia. So it is important to get that higher seed. You look at the Russians as well, getting a team like either Latvia or Denmark, and both those teams they did beat, or they would beat. Russia would definitely beat a team like Latvia, and then Denmark, of course, did keep them close, only winning 2-0. But at the end of the day, Russia does have some work to do against a team like Denmark, who has proven themselves to be a stingy team, going to capitalize on your mistakes. But it is going to be very curious to see what goes on there. So taking a look at the schedule for the upcoming qualifying matchups. We have Germany and Slovakia coming up at 11:10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And that'll be, and the winner of that game will go on to play the USA. And then we have Latvia against Denmark, also coming up at 11:10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The winner of that game will move on to Russia. And then 3:40 a.m. Eastern Standard Time will be between the Czechs and the Swiss. And if you remember back to the original game, it was a 2-1 overtime victory for Team Czech Republic. And the winner of that game will move on to play the Finns. And then China and Canada coming up at 8:10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And the winner of that will play Team Sweden. The previous result of the Canada-China game, once again, 5-0 Canada. Expect more of the same from the Canadians. Lots of domination on that part, but it's going to be very curious to see what goes on there. If there are any upsets, that is one of the big ones if it is going to happen, and most people will go into riot mode if that is the case. But it still remains to be seen. Obviously, I do really hope not that Canada does do what they should be doing and dominating the Chinese. But at the end of the day, hot goaltenders can make a big difference in the league, and we are going to see if anything comes about that way. Just the news from today. Qualifying matchups are set, and Sweden does pull off the major leaf choke, which does mean that they did blow the 3-goal lead in the third period. But with that, if you made it this far in the video, thanks for watching. If you'd like to drop a like, if you really like to consider subscribing, tell all your friends, leave a comment down below your thoughts on Day 5 of the men's Olympic hockey event. Until next time, see ya.